This is the biggest week that the new look Big 12 has had in terms of national spotlight, importance relative to the rest of the sport. This is it. And even the most cynical of media folks about the Big 12 are now open and admitting this, whether it's the AP poll or even those from SEC country. All right. I've got an SEC country media source taking note of this. All right. Things worked out really well for the league this week. Now, the big one was if you're a Big 12 fan, if you're Brett Yormark, whoever, it was going to be better if Texas Tech would win to set up as big a matchup as possible with BYU. What I have said over and over again about this league, people have asked, how does the Big 12 get more respect? Well, number one, you win playoff games, okay? But beyond that, you need some big games that, people pay attention to, where they're not just looking at it like it's, these two boring teams I don't care about. Well, BYU and Texas Tech have been, I think, the biggest and best stories in the league this year. Now they're going to match up, and they're both ranked in the top 10. And that's another thing that happened this weekend. In addition to, hey, Texas Tech took care of business and set up this matchup, you also got a couple teams from the ACC losing in Miami and Georgia Tech that fall out of the top 10, and in go BYU and Texas Tech. All right? In go BYU and Texas Tech to make this a top 10 matchup. BYU is at 8. Texas Tech is at 9. That looks great. As dumb as some of this may be to talk about and think about from a branding perspective, when you're talking about, hey, they're going to flash up College Game Day live from Lubbock, Texas, number 8 versus number 9. That looks nice. That looks nice. All the Big 12 doubters, all the Big 12 haters, here's a top 10 matchup coming right at you from Big 12 country in Lubbock. Ancillary things. This week, a lot definitely happened in the Big 12. I don't know how much of it really relates to the spotlight being completely on the league this week, other than really the Tech thing and the ACC falling out that has now paved the way for much more spotlight to be on the Big 12. I think that is another thing I should mention, too, about the ACC. It's not just the mere, hey, you have a top 10 matchup, but it's no one's going to be talking about the big brands in the ACC now. They've all effectively eliminated themselves. I know Georgia Tech wasn't like a big brand, but they were an unbeaten top 10, sort of a BYU. They were like the BYU of the ACC. They're gone. Not unbeaten anymore. Not that big of a story. Miami becomes a story for negative reasons. Again, Florida State and Clemson are already tanking. Clemson lost to Duke on Saturday, by the way. So that helps. If getting a decisive winner in Utah-Cincy, I do think in a roundabout way can help in terms of setting the groundwork for maybe Utah is a non-Big 12 championship game participant playoff team. Winning another game that decisively is going to help them with the computer numbers that I already talked about. And it just helps people being like, damn, that's a pretty good team. Look at what they just did to a top 20 team in Cincinnati. So there is something to that, perhaps. Really, what you just got was a lot of clarity, which I suppose in some ways can help. Houston lost. I don't want to say that that's like a great thing for the Big 12 necessarily, but it did provide some clarity. Like Houston looks like it's not quite there to be a legit Big 12 contender. Arizona State stayed alive. Great story. Jeff Sims playing for now the out for the rest of the year, Sam Levitt, which sucks and is a horrible story. Jeff Sims steps in, has kind of a storybook day. I saw a great shot of him hugging his parents after the game on the field after he goes for an insane, 228 rushing yards on the Iowa State defense. Insane. But what all of this has set up is a week where the Big 12 gets to take center stage, not because it's some charity case, not because Big 12 fans complained or Brett Yormark complained to the TV partners or anything like that. Texas Tech BYU is legitimately the biggest game of the week in college football. Full stop, period, end of sentence. It's not even close. It's the only top 10 matchup out there. And it is truly giving the league a deserved center stage. Like nobody across the country can look at this and just be like, why are they doing this? Like why, if you're an SEC fan, if you're a Big Ten fan, you cannot look at this week. I can understand how you would have looked at it last week and been like, okay, well, terrible week. They're throwing the Big 12 a bone. Okay, Cincinnati, Utah, great. You can't do that this week. And I'm not saying that was justified last week, by the way. I think Cincy and Utah were both great stories, and it was a deserving game for sure. But this one is different. This is on a different level. Top 10, two big stories. Everybody knows about these stories this year, right? Everybody knows about these stories. BYU, unbeaten again, 8-0 again, and they've done it with a true freshman starting quarterback. We're getting to the point now where Bear Bachmeier is starting to show up on the fringes of Heisman lists. Everybody gets to hear about his story. Crazy. I was reading in the Deseret News earlier today about how it was like Chase Roberts. Apparently, the people close around Chase Roberts were saying like he was pretty bummed when the Jake Retzloff thing happened because he thought, well, his final year at BYU was going to be marred a little bit by that. And, you're going to have to roll with a dicey quarterback situation. Well, so much for that. So much for that. You got a fringe Heisman candidate as a true freshman. Better story than Jake Retzloff. Better quarterback than Jake Retzloff. It's worked out pretty well. That's a story, man. The culture, the change of BYU into being this really cool brand, which, let's be honest, was not really the case like 4 or 5 years ago. All of that is a story, and it's a great story, and it's one that college football fans can't escape from now. BYU is doing it again. You're going to match that with Texas Tech. Texas Tech proving that a Big 12 team can bend the portal to its will. Big 12 team can go out there and spend wisely. Again, I will say that into this microphone every time I talk about Texas Tech. It is not fair to just say, well, they threw a bunch of money at the problem. No, they threw a bunch of money wisely. They spent wisely. James Blanchard did a hell of a job. They identified we need to go beef up the lines because that's where SEC and Big 10 rosters have us beat. We can bludgeon the Big 12 with that, but more importantly, we can compete in playoff games with that. They did an excellent job with it. That's a national story with reverberations and tentacles that go all across the college football world, not just the Big 12, because it shows what you can accomplish if you're not a blue blood brand at a time when non-blue blood brands are striving in the sport. That's a tongue twister. Texas Tech, big story. Everybody knows now about Cody Campbell and what has happened at Tech. And now that story gets featured for the first time since 2008. Michael Crabtree and Graham Harrell and Mike Leach were roaming Lubbock. Texas Tech gets College Game Day. And you know what? These schools totally deserve that. They deserve this full-on treatment that they are going to get. I love it so much for both schools. Two of the most passionate, absolute most passionate fan bases in the Big 12. I mean, I was trying to think about this before. When I make that definitive statement, like these are the two biggest, there's an argument there for sure that these are the two biggest, most passionate fan bases in the Big 12, dude. It's Texas. Do not get crosswise with Texas Tech Twitter. Okay. That would just be my advice to you. And BYU, obviously, already a built-in national audience. Okay. Because of the LDS connection. But really passionate. They fill their stadium, the biggest stadium in the Big 12, more and better than anybody else across the league right now. Like, these schools, these fan bases absolutely deserve it. And it's early returns seem to be good on this. Hopefully, YouTube TV gets whatever it needs to get figured out with ESPN and Disney to make sure that the College Game Day will not be unavailable to YouTube TV subscribers, because I would hate for that to be a second straight week where they could just go, oh, hey, look at the numbers for College Game Day, how down they were when you went to Big 12 campuses. Hopefully, everybody would realize the YouTube TV thing has a lot to do with that. Okay. But it seems like the early returns are everybody's like, hey, yeah, this is great. Big 12 deserves this. Let's do it. Let's see what's going to happen with BYU and Texas Tech. This is Brandon Walker, who is the show Unnecessary Roughness on Barstool Sports. He's an SEC guy. Okay. Right. Like this is SEC guy, SEC country. And I wanted to play this clip from you where he talks about what is happening in the Big 12 right now.
The Big 12 is about to go on a run of giving us a lot of good games. We had Kalani Sitake on the show, Wake Up Barstool, this morning. They're playing at Texas Tech, and they're playing at Cincinnati over the next 3 weeks. You got a lot coming in the Big 12. You got a lot coming in the SEC. It's just the Big 10, the ACC, for whatever reason, have so many at the top that just aren't intermingling.
Some of that fortuitous, scheduling wise, right? Some of that a little bit random, the way that it worked out, but you take advantage of it right now, man. You push the pedal to the floor right now when you get this spotlight and you milk it for all that it's worth. And I asked myself the question too, like, can this turn out poorly for the Big 12? Like, what does a poor outcome look like here? I mean, I think it's highly unlikely that happens. If you get some really sloppy game, maybe. I can remember back to the beginning of the year when the game was played in Ireland and everyone's like, oh, Big 12, look at how sloppy this is, even though it was, it was week 0 and it's being played in the rain. And I think that was highly unfair. Maybe if you have something like that, I don't think you're going to get that with these two teams being involved. And even if you had one team blowing out the other, then you have a force. Like, you have a team that's going to push its way toward the top 5 and be a force to be reckoned with in people's minds. And I think especially, and I'm just saying, because of what people know about the talent and how much people care about talent ratings, star ratings, all that, because of what Texas Tech has in the portal and what people know about that. Like, if Tech were to win by 3 touchdowns, if they go 43-20 again, people are going to be like, oh man, all right, like, this Tech team is legit. This Tech team is totally legit. They will earn a lot of legitimacy from that, which helps the league, and the ultimate idea here, which is to position yourself as best as you can in the college football playoff. But ultimately, if you just get a knockdown, drag out, great game, really close game, 27, 24, 30, 27, something like that, and both teams can kind of like boost their potential at-large status there for whoever's not going to win the conference, that is definitely your best outcome here. But it seems like there are a few ways for the Big 12 to lose this week. And I'm just looking forward to all the build up to this game and everything that's going to happen surrounding this for the conference. Big 12 definitely needs this.